My friends, behind the convincing smiles of people who act like they own the world, there's a blueprint for emotional devastation. This isn't just a big ego. It's a psychological contagion, a hidden predator that dresses itself in charm. If you can't spot the markers, you're not just risking your time, you're risking your very sense of self. They don't just think they're better than everyone. They hold it as a fundamental truth of their existence. The narcissist navigates life with the unwavering belief that they're a special case, immune to criticism, exempt from rules, and, without question, superior to you. Yet this belief, this projection of absolute power, isn't born from real self-confidence. It's a fragile shield, a desperate mental barricade protecting a scared child deep inside. A child who was maybe once shamed, ignored, or hurt in ways they couldn't heal from. So, to avoid facing that wound, they invented a different persona, flawless, magnificent, and untouchable. They have to be superior, because the thought of being ordinary is a fate worse than death. This feeling of being above it all is not harmless. It isn't just an overabundance of confidence. It is a genuine danger, because it fundamentally breaks their perception of reality. When someone with this mindset enters a space, they don't connect with peers. They assess assets, opponents, or admirers. You are a tool so long as you affirm their brilliance, or you are completely worthless. You are never, ever valued for who you truly are. Your identity is processed through the intense need for dominance. To be the sharpest, the best looking, the most celebrated person in the room. And should your own existence challenge that fantasy in any capacity, if you display competence, confidence, or simply quiet self-possession, you will be seen not as another human, but as a direct assault on their fragile persona. And any assault must be neutralized. Here is where it turns genuinely unsettling. Because when their fantasy of being the best is threatened, these individuals don't turn to introspection or humility. They go on the offensive. It might be with biting sarcasm, direct public shame, or a meticulously planned smear campaign to ruin your name from the shadows, all while keeping their charismatic mask perfectly in place. They have to come out on top, not necessarily from a place of pure evil, but because not winning would mean the collapse of their entire constructed reality. And let's be clear, this drive to be superior is not powered by genuine inner strength. It is powered by terror. At their core, they live in mortal fear that if people stop admiring them, they will simply dissolve into nothing. So when you find yourself dealing with a narcissist, you aren't interacting with a person who just thinks they're skilled or self-assured. You are dealing with a person whose entire being is built on a falsehood they must protect no matter what. This makes them unstable, unpredictable, and impossible to have a rational conversation with. Facts hold no weight. Reality is irrelevant. The only thing that is real is the preservation of their top dog status. They will bend the truth, deny what you both know happened, and edit the past in real time. Not because they're detached from reality in a clinical sense, but because their ego's very survival is on the line. This is not self-love. It's not a healthy sense of self. It is a form of self-fixation that was born from profound shame, and it leaves a trail of wreckage everywhere it goes, throughout families, friendships, and partnerships. Because you can't grow in the shadow of someone who refuses to see you as anything more than a member of their audience. A narcissist doesn't form bonds. They fake them. The first time you encounter them, the feeling of being seen can be staggering. They copy your interests, your traumas, your belief systems. They say the same lines you do. They love the same obscure films, had the same childhood struggles, hold the same life goals. It feels like destiny, as if you finally found your person. But the experience you are having is not a connection between two souls. It is a masterfully executed act. Narcissists do not create connections by showing you who they really are. They create a blueprint of you and then put on that persona like a costume, because they instinctively know that to get control over a person, you must first get them to lower their guard. And imitation is the most potent disarmament tool. This form of mirrored identity isn't simply praise. It's psychological warfare disguised as love, companionship, or guidance. They observe you not from a place of genuine interest, but for strategic advantage. What makes your eyes light up? What are your deepest pains? Where do you feel insecure? They gather this data like a weapon. At the start, they'll use this knowledge to build you up. You will feel recognized, valued, and cherished. But as soon as you trust them, as soon as your walls come down, the rules shift entirely. The things they once adored about you become points of critique. The vulnerabilities they once shared are now used against you. The very qualities that made you attractive to them are transformed into ammunition for their manipulation. Their empathy is a performance. It's an emotional magic trick. They aren't feeling what you feel. They are watching your reactions and delivering the expected response, like an actor memorizing a script, but there is zero real connection there. It's all about exchange. They provide just enough of the feeling you want to keep you dependent, while secretly managing the whole show. The moment you question them or step out of your assigned character, the costume comes off. What was once praise becomes cold strategy or outright disgust. The true threat of this kind of psychological game is that it doesn't just mess with how you see them. It corrupts how you see yourself. You start to doubt your own gut feelings. You question your own emotional responses. Because how could a person who understood you so completely transform into someone so heartless, so dismissive, so foreign? That contradiction ignites a battle inside your own head. And that state of confusion is where a narcissist thrives. The more lost you feel, the more power they have over you. This isn't a relationship, it is an ownership. You are not cherished for the person you are. You are exploited for what you can offer: your focus, your approval, your devotion. You are a blank canvas for them to paint their fantasies on. And the second you refuse to play your part, you will either be discarded or annihilated. Usually, it's both. A real bond depends on shared weakness, give and take, and raw honesty. But a narcissist cannot engage in these things. Weakness compromises their control. Give and take means seeing you as an equal. And honesty would expose the empty frame they are built around. So, they copy you. They play games with you. And when the show is over, you are left alone, questioning if any of it, the joy, the connection, the closeness, was ever genuine. The hard truth is that it was not. Control is the narcissist's core drive, but they seldom get it with physical force or obvious power plays. They work more like puppet masters, quiet, methodical, and unnervingly dedicated. They manufacture turmoil not randomly, but with intention. Because turmoil is their element. Confusion is where they find their strength. The more you question what is real, the more power they have to be the one who tells you. This is the entry point for gaslighting. It is not one single action, but a whole operating system of mental control that takes apart your identity, one lie at a time. The narcissist does more than just tell lies. They bend the very fabric of truth. They will deny saying something you heard moments ago. They will change the shared history between you as you're living it. They will present contradictions so bold, so ridiculous, that you instinctively assume you must be the one who's mistaken, and that is their precise goal. Because if they can make you distrust your own memory, your own perceptions, and even your own stability, they can establish themselves as the only dependable voice in your life. And once they achieve that, they don't just have power over the dynamic, they have power over you. It begins in small ways. A contemptuous look when you share a feeling, a sharp jab hidden inside a joke, a passive-aggressive jab that makes you wonder if you're just too sensitive. And once that foundation is laid, they will confirm it. They might mask it with financial gifts, with social influence, or even through legal documents. And they can perpetuate this because our systems sometimes reward this behavior. But that pattern always gets worse. You start to brace for their disapproval before a word leaves your mouth. You mentally practice conversations, trying to find the perfect phrasing that won't set off their explosive temper. Your personal world shrinks. You become acutely tuned into their feelings and completely numb to your own. Narcissists are not interested in peace. Peace requires equilibrium. It requires mutual regard, and that's something they find intolerable because it gets in the way of their control. So they will needle you and then blame you for being overly emotional. They will pull back all affection abruptly and then look baffled when you feel hurt. They create suspicion between you and the people who care about you, systematically cutting you off until their version of reality is the only one you hear. And if you ever manage to start pulling free, they won't respond with self-awareness. They will escalate, showering you with love 1 minute and punishing you with silence the next. This isn't just an unpredictable mood. It's a calculated loop designed to keep you off balance, to keep you apologizing, to keep you desperately trying to win back the person from the beginning, the one who made you feel seen, protected, and chosen. But that person was never real. They were an illusion. In this environment of engineered instability, your inner voice slowly perishes. You no longer listen to your gut. You swallow your words. You make yourself smaller, less complicated, more controllable. And the narcissist, now securely at the helm, stands untouched in the middle of a disaster they created, all while posing as the one who will save you from the very confusion they orchestrated. This is the profound cruelty of narcissistic power. It doesn't shatter you in one blow. It convinces you to dismantle yourself, bit by bit, memory by memory, until you no longer recognize the person you were before they arrived. Narcissists don't need love. They need admiration. More precisely, they need a source of supply. This supply is not care in the way we understand it. It is an endless feed of focus, approval, praise, and submission that acts like oxygen to their ego's fire. They can absolutely use the words of love. They can put on a show of caring gestures, but these are all transactions. They are not acts of genuine feeling. They are calculated moves to guarantee a payoff, your complete dedication, your adoration, your emotional reliance on them. In the first stages, this attention can feel incredibly powerful. Narcissists are experts at lavishing you with praise when it serves them. They will convince you that you're the most important person in the world, not because they see your unique worth, but because your worship of them validates their own fragile sense of being special. As long as you fulfill your function, as long as your gaze is locked onto them, steady and without question, you will be rewarded. They might even put you on a high pedestal, showering you with a constant stream of attention. But it is not meant to last. The second you voice a need of your own, draw a line, or stop feeding their ego, the entire act starts to crumble. What comes next is an icy disengagement that can feel like a shock to your system. They become cool, easily annoyed, or even vicious. And when you try to connect and ask what's wrong, they treat you as if your feelings are a massive burden, as if your fundamental need for a connection is a deep personal inconvenience to them. This is the great contradiction of the narcissist. They require your constant praise, but provide none of it back. They are starved for your validation, but will let you starve for theirs. Your words of encouragement become an expected tax. Their lack of response becomes a weapon, and your emotional pain becomes a tool they can use against you. This imbalance results in a one-sided emotional world where you are always pouring out, and they are always draining you. You start trying even harder to make them happy, to get back the attention that once flowed so easily. You set aside your own wants. You bite your tongue. You shrink, become more agreeable, more convenient, all for the slim hope of getting back those scraps of validation that once felt like a feast. But it never returns in the same way, because the moment a narcissist believes they have you hooked, they no longer feel the need to pretend there's any mutual respect. They've secured their prize. This deprivation is by design. By starving you of affirmation, they make you even more dependent. They need you to be desperate for their attention. They need you chasing the memory of the person who made you feel so vibrant. This keeps them firmly in charge. It's a vicious cycle of reward and punishment, a form of intermittent reinforcement that looks a lot like addiction. You have no idea when the next kind word or gesture might arrive. And so you hold on, hoping it will, but it almost never does. Because in their eyes, your value is not in who you are. It's in what you give their ego. As soon as that purpose diminishes, so does their affection, and it's replaced by a cold detachment that makes you question if you were ever truly seen or just skillfully used. There is a singular thing narcissists fear above all else, more than being rejected, more than failing, more than being left alone, and that is being found out. Underneath that persona of inflated importance is a profound, biting self-doubt they must keep concealed at all costs. Every fabrication they weave, every mind game they play, every charming front they present is designed for one singular goal: to protect the invented character they've built from ever being seen as the fragile, insecure, and deeply ashamed thing it truly is. To uphold their fantasy of flawlessness, narcissists are perpetually on stage. To the public, they offer a carefully crafted character, successful, charismatic, and even self-deprecating when it fits the part. They invest enormous energy in earning praise and admiration. But behind the curtain, the script is entirely different. When the audience is gone, or more to the point, when no one who is important to their public image can see, their actions become unpredictable, abusive, and domineering. They unload on the people who are closest to them, not because these people are flawed, but because they are witnesses. And a witness is a liability. Anyone who glimpses what's behind the performance, who starts to put together the pieces between the public charm and the private abuse, becomes a threat. Initially, the narcissist might try to pull them back in with further mind games, apologies steeped in self-pity, hollow promises to change, and brief moments of engineered warmth. But if these tactics don't work, they pivot. They launch a preemptive strike. They lie, they slander, and they destroy reputations. They create a brand new narrative in which they are the long-suffering victim, and you are the one who is crazy, who is abusive, who is impossible to please. It is a form of psychological warfare, and they are absolutely relentless in fighting it. This terror of being seen for who they are compels them to preemptively discredit anyone who could endanger their story. Former lovers, friends, or even family members who defy them are quickly branded as unstable or disturbed. They work to isolate you from your support system, planting whispers of doubt in the minds of others, while they continue to play the role of the rational, stable one. Their entire power structure relies on this split reality. They require public acclaim while tightly managing the story that happens in private. And the more of the truth you see, the greater a danger you represent. They can't handle genuine closeness because authentic connection requires being truly seen. Vulnerability, which is the heart of any real relationship, is their greatest fear. It demands a level of honesty that could shatter the fragile identity they've spent a lifetime building. So, instead of being open, they change the subject. Instead of admitting fault, they shift the blame. Instead of hearing feedback, they explode with anger or give you the silent treatment. Every single response is a defense tactic intended to keep the truth buried. The real heartbreak is that the narcissist isn't just hiding from you. They are hiding from their own self. But in that act, they demolish the very relationships that could have offered them a path to healing. Anyone who gets close enough to see the real them becomes an enemy, not a friend. And so, the performance must continue, regardless of the destruction. Because being seen for who they are doesn't just damage their ego, it threatens to demolish the entire survival mechanism they've built. The most horrifying aspect of narcissistic abuse isn't just the overt acts of cruelty, it's the profound silence that enables it. These dynamics don't exist in a vacuum. They endure because they are kept secret, played down, and dismissed. Victims often don't find their voice because they are unable to. They have been rendered too confused, too filled with shame, or too beaten down to articulate what happened. And that silence is the perfect environment for a monster to grow, because so long as the behavior is not named, it continues to fester. It starts to feel normal, even deserved, and the narcissist is free to move on, to continue their pattern with a new person, a new relationship, a new audience. This silence is not an accident. It is usually commanded by the narcissist directly. They build a world around you where telling your truth feels like the most dangerous thing you could do. You become afraid that no one will believe you. You become afraid of being labeled the unstable one. You become afraid of losing your connections, your career, your family, or the social status tied to the narcissist's flawless public persona. They convince others to remain silent, to ignore their own intuition, to dismiss your reality. And when they succeed, the narcissist doesn't just gain control over you, they erase your truth. And once your truth has been rewritten for you, you are far easier to control, to throw away, and to forget. But the harm doesn't end with the intended target. This silence sends shockwaves outward. Kids who grow up in narcissistic environments learn that stuffing down their feelings is necessary for survival. Partners learn to normalize abuse, believing that this is what love is. Friends, relatives, and entire communities will look away because facing the ugly truth is just too messy, too much of a hassle. And so the cycle of harm goes on, not because it is invisible, but because no one dares to speak its name. Shattering that silence is the ultimate act of defiance. It is also the very first move toward getting yourself back. To name the things you endured, the reality warping, the mind games, the emotional starvation, the cruelty, is to give form to something that felt like a ghost. It takes back the power from the one who took it. And it sends a clear signal. I see what you are. I'm done being quiet. Your secrets are not mine to keep anymore. Monsters are not powerful because of some innate strength. They have power because we give them places to hide. And the most dangerous ones are not the ones who yell and scream. They are the ones who smile, who disarm you with charm, who lie, and who hide their abusive nature behind a magnetic personality. They rely on the silence of their victims to protect their reputation. They fear being unmasked because being seen is what truly defeats them. If you have seen this behavior in another person, or even more frighteningly, in yourself, now is the moment to speak. Not for revenge, but for the sake of reality. Because reality breaks the spell. It shatters the front. It pulls what has been hidden into the open. And in the full light of day, the narcissist's power begins to turn to dust. Silence is what lets monsters roam freely among us. Speaking up is not just about staying alive. It is an act of resistance. It is an act of justice. And most importantly, it is your freedom.